Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Cimmerian September, Michael K. Vaughan's BookTube event, where we talk about Robert E. Howard's creations, Robert E. Howard's fiction, all month long. And I have gravitated into the well of Savage Sword of Conan, the old black and white magazine that Marvel Comics put out for Conan Adventures as a kind of adult, less censored companion to their full-color Conan the Barbarian monthly comic book. And yesterday, I varied from that routine, not to go away from Savage Sword of Conan, but to go to its current iteration, being published by Titan Books. And we had a great time. It was it was not a technically great issue that we saw. And a number of you emailed me about that, saying, so what you're really saying here is that this issue is not worth my money. You said in the video that it's whatever it was, $7 or something like that, but your video made it clear that there's only one part of the thing that's worth the money. That's fair enough. I was so enraptured by the final story in that issue that I got carried away, and I mostly praised that when the rest of the issue is not all that good. But nevertheless, I don't feel like I was shortchanged in money. I guess I should have put it that way. And today we're going back 40 years to the original Savage Sword of Conan, the project that I've been doing for Cimmerian September all month long, that you don't seem to object to all that much. I mean, this is a Michael K. Vaughan event, so it's not exactly heavy on the rules. And we are going back once again to the 1980s, when all the world made sense. But not to any better an issue. In fact, to a worse issue than the current Savage Sword of Conan. This is Savage Sword of Conan number 111. With who is this guy? Steve Hickman. This is the second Steve Hickman cover that I've seen. First of all, you have to squint to see the star. If you squint really hard in this busy cover, you will see Conan. And you'll see that something has knocked his helmet off. That's not actually the way helmets work. You have to take a helmet off. You can't just knock it off, especially when nothing's hitting you. Just moving around is not going to knock your helmet off. But it's a pretty cover. It's pretty in that it's got a solid circular motion going on. But it takes you a minute to realize, when I first looked at this cover, I thought, well, that's odd. Why is he fighting a crowd of mini tigers? A full-grown tiger is bigger than Conan. One of them is. So if you put 10 of them on a cover, he's going to be lost completely to view and completely destroyed. Conan the Barbarian cannot beat 10 tigers. I argue it's possible that I even fired off letters on a manual typewriter to the letters column of both Conan the Barbarian and Savage Sword of Conan in their day to stress beyond a shadow of a doubt that Conan the Barbarian cannot defeat a single grown tiger. Not without a weapon. Not with his bare hands. That isn't any more possible than that he could defeat a single elephant. But then you look more closely and you realize why they're miniature tigers. Because they're not tigers. They all have boobies. They're female were-tigers. And you're just supposed to piece that out. You're supposed to figure that out on the cover. Fortunately, that doesn't have anything to do with the story that's on the inside, which is called Mud Men of Keshan. Written by Michael Fleischer with art, again, by Gary Quapis. But the fact that it doesn't have anything to do with that story doesn't save that story. This story is really, really bad. We have an opening illustration, also has nothing to do with the issue, just a pin-up for you. And Conan fans will know in a minute what that is. That is that is a famous Conan story. It's a bit from a famous Conan story. Again, I'm not sure why it is censored. There is a key bit of censorship going on here. Conan is fighting two ice giants, while a seemingly terrified young woman looks on. She's not terrified because she's afraid of the ice giants, any of you who know this story, but there's a detail about her that's wrong. I don't really get that. I thought the whole point of this was that you didn't have that sort of thing. But the story, first of all, as we've seen with Gary Quapis, he draws from life, either from friends of his or from photos. which doesn't work in a comic book. It just doesn't. Comic books are a very visual medium, but they are an artificially visual medium. So if you have someone that looks like someone that doesn't look like a depersonalized comic book character, it's going to be really awkward. People are going to notice, and that's all through here. That's just all through this issue, where this you cannot shake the suspicion that the artist is drawing his friends. But anyway, this is a story essentially. There are two real heartbeats to the story. One is about a band of freebooting thieves and swords people who are women. An all-female band who go around in short shorts and bikinis, terrorizing the neighborhood. It's fundamentally not believable in Robert E. Howard's Hyborian Age. It's fundamentally not believable. See, you've got the author's friends are in this. It's just, it's so awkward. It's just so awkward. But you've got them, and then the other thing, the key thing in the story, is a religious idol from a tribal people in Keshan. It's a little wooden bat-winged religious idol. And there is a shaman, a witch doctor, who guards it and regulates the tribe's reverence of it, tells the tribe what it's thinking and feeling, no doubt collects money to fund his lifestyle based on that, because priesthoods never change. But the thing about this idol is that it's magical, but that's not true. And you learn that early on in the story. That what we're dealing with here is not the supernatural. There is no supernatural element in this comic book. What we're dealing with here is the X-Men. It's not that the idol is supernatural or that it's in any way connected to the Keshan gods. It's that the shaman has very limited powers of telekinesis. He is able to raise the thing off the ground and send it flying through the air. Not very fast, not very threatening. All he can do is bonk people with it. But it's enough to frighten the enemies of the village and make him a hero. Because the people in the village think that he is in touch with the god, when really he's just moving the object. That's all. And that the object, since everybody else thinks that it's mystical, comes to the attention of object hunters. So they kill the shaman and they steal the object. And that is one plot line. The other plot line deals with these female Conans punching people, hurling people through the air, just in case you wondered whether or not some of this lunacy started in 2015. It did not. It's done in a fun kind of way, but it's done in a fun kind of way. Conan eventually encounters these ladies because, once again, this is like the fifth time that we've seen it in this sort of Conan run. They encounter a wanted poster and start to have lascivious dreams about what they would do with Conan if they found him, or what they would let him do with them. But we're supposed to be interested in these girls on their own, and we're not at any point. And since that's half the plot, that's a big deal. But it turns out we get a lot more violence. But it turns out that the shaman is not dead. The shaman has returned, and we get Conan's adventures in this city, where he faces a strong man in the street who bends a bar of steel and throws it at Conan and tells him to watch his P's and Q's. Conan does not unbend the bar. Instead, he kills the man with the bar. Unbends it against his throat to kill him. No offense to Sherlock Holmes, and no offense to Conan, but that's not possible to do for a human being who doesn't have superpowers. So is it copper? Is it beaten gold? Is there some... I know this is a comic book, but when Conan kills the guy, a fight starts, and one of the guy's confederates is ready to throw a knife at Conan. And the witch doctor moves, he concentrates and he moves a stool to catch the knife. What's the matter, baby? We've got some sort of drama going on here. What are you doing? Huh? You going to get down to your chair? You are going to get down to your chair. All right. So that pretty much confirms. I mean, the chair is not the representation of anybody's god. So the stool is not a god. So we're not dealing here with sword and sorcery. We're dealing with a priest who can move small objects via telekinesis. That's all. And the story goes on. See, the artist is looking up a National Geographic issue of someone splitting a lizard, or a National Geographic issue of a forest, a jungle den or a jungle dell with a crocodile and lilies, and they're all. The problem with drawing things from life is that they're not going to look lifelike on the page. They're going to look like you drew them from life or from your friends, like a museum exhibit. That is wrong. That is not flat. You're looking at a carving on a wall. That is not what it's supposed to look like. That is what it will look like if you draw it from a picture from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's just... it continues like that. There are all sorts of twists and turns. One of the femme fatales is captured. Conan has to free her. They fight a crowd of the artist's friends. There is a bacchanal. Once again, this guy does a bad job of levitating his item here. It bonks against the tree branch, and that encourages the tribe's enemies who think, it's fallible. The gods are fallible, which makes Conan and the femme fatale, and the femme fatales are just hacking their way through all these people. Notice that all of the enemies here have spears, and Conan and this girl are naked. So that isn't the way it works. That just isn't the way it works. They would both be dead very quickly. If they're naked, they would both be dead. But they succeed in driving off these attackers, and the story ends with them tossing their clothing out the window and drawing the shutters, I guess, for privacy's sake. Just dumb. Just totally dumb. It's a small stakes story, but it's rendered even smaller by how idiotic everyone in the story is, and how poorly it's drawn. Although I don't know if even a great artist could have saved this story. And then there's a backup story, In the Eye of the Beholder, where the writer is Don Krar, who I think some of you were suggesting might be Larry Hama, and the artwork is by Ernie Chan, but the story is not good. The story is still dumb. It's Conan saving a woman from a slave market and then getting fed up with how uppity she is. It's for only 6 pages. So my foray into Cimmerian September last night, not good. But we're going to keep going. We've got a lot more days left in Cimmerian September, a lot more issues left. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll see you next time, hopefully with happier news to report. Thank you, BookTube.